Good morning, everyone. Welcome in to Walking with Jesus, this new podcast. I can't say it's new anymore. We've been doing this now for a little bit, but it's fairly new to us. And this concept that we can tune in and just find out what it was like in the life and times of Jesus Christ. I'm Teri Angel. I'm here with Lily Ortega. Thank you, Lily, for coming on with me. And we're with Dr. Ruth Anderson as well, who is going to chime in and help us to dig in to this, whatever topic comes up today, as we research and ask the questions that we want to know answers to. So come on in. If you have questions, if you have anything you would like to look at as far as the life of Jesus, just put that in the comments and we will most certainly address it. So I'm going to share this out while Lily welcomes everyone in the Spanish language.
Sí, buenos días a todos. Bienvenidos al podcast Caminando con Jesús. Está aquí con nosotros Teri Angel y está también Ruth. Van a estar aquí con nosotros el día de hoy. Y estamos, como ya sabemos, explorando la vida de Jesús, cómo es que Jesús vivió cuando estuvo aquí en la tierra. Y ya hemos preguntado muchas cosas relacionadas con su familia, sus padres, sus hermanos, sus amigos y animales. El programa que hicimos de animales fue muy bien recibido. Hubo mucha gente que parece ser que tuvo curiosidad de saber más acerca de este. So Teri, as I am translating, I was recalling the prior podcasts, and the one that I got that had more receptivity or more attention was the one with animals. So maybe in the future we can do another podcast related to animals.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, absolutely. And, there's so much about that to explore. And even today, it's so relevant we have a lot of animal lovers and nature lovers in our spiritual group. So, I think that's a great topic that we can look at. One thing that came to me as I was just pondering and wondering about Jesus's life was, how did he handle inclement weather? Like, I don't know what the weather is like where he grew up and where he did his ministry there in Jerusalem. I don't have a clue. I think it's probably hot, I would think. Isn't it more like desert-like?
It's like Egypt.
So it would be the same type of hot.
Yep.
Hot all the time.
Hot and arid.
Yeah. But I know for us, in these days and times, we're always so aware of, it's 90 degrees, it's really hot, we're hot, or it's cold, and we're discussing the temperatures. So how did he handle being in a human body? How did that set with him, having to adjust to whatever was going on, like if it was too hot, too cold? Did he even care? That's one of my questions. It's like, was that just not even an issue?
I don't think it was a thing because they didn't have any way to change it. So
no AC, right? Not even fans.
No, they didn't know what they could do. So I don't think it was a thing.
And what comes to my mind is when I started watching the Buddhist monks that were walking, that they are still walking for peace, but they were walking in the United States. I had so many tears because when I I started following what they were doing, and when I saw them with severe climate, like extreme cold in the snow, and when they go to India or Sri Lanka or those areas, it's extremely hot, and they walk barefoot. Um, and then and the dog, talking about animals, you
Right.
know, I, and then I just remember something else about a loca. That anyway, that will be in the topic of the animal podcast. But um, you know, I wonder, how do they how do they, stay present and basically with their mindfulness forget somehow what's happening around and focus in what's that step by step, they have a song, something called Step by Step or something. But then, I mean, I don't know how Jesus did, but when I watched the monks, I was like, I guess that there is a possibility to live or to walk in this weather with your mind. I guess your mind is what helps you focus in those things. I don't know.
So if you'd like to take a minute and share, in Spanish what we are discussing, I think I'd like to just tune in to that because I love that you brought that up, Lily. And yeah, I followed the monks as well as they took that journey. And I did think about Jesus as I was watching them and how, he was walking. There wasn't transportation, he didn't have vehicles to move around. So he was on foot and walking in the desert with people that were crowds that were always there around him. So yeah, I'm going to tune into that and just see if
Yes.
I can focus on what that was like to be there walking with Jesus.
Okay, I'm going to translate into Spanish.
Okay.
Bueno, estamos ahorita explorando el clima. Nos dice Terry que a ella le gustaría saber, ya ven que en estos tiempos estamos pasando por cambios de clima muy drásticos. De repente el clima está muy caliente y luego el clima está muy frío, y luego no sé, hay mucho movimiento en la tierra. Entonces, Terry se está preguntando cómo es que Jesús vivió esto, cómo le hizo para caminar, para vivir en climas extremos. Entonces, yo le estaba diciendo que yo en enero más o menos de este año empecé a ver a los monjes budistas que hicieron una caminata por la paz aquí en Estados Unidos. Yo los veía que caminaban en clima extremo de nieve, o cuando ellos caminan, perdón, en Sri Lanka o en India, en aquellas áreas, caminan en mucho calor y caminan descalzos. ¿Cómo le hacen para poder sobrellevar todo eso? Y lo único que de repente yo pienso es que es la mente. Pero entonces dice Terry que ella se está sintonizando ahorita con Jesús para ver qué es lo que le llega.
Thank you, Lily. So when I closed my eyes and I asked about, like, I know it was hot. I felt hot. I felt like when Jesus was walking, I know that he had sandals. I saw it. And Ruth and I, in many of our meditations, when we have been visiting with Jesus, we've seen the sandals on our feet. And even last week when Mindy was with us, she discussed how she was seeing that in her time with Jesus as well. So what I saw was, like, when I'm walking, I'm very aware of how my feet are either comfortable or hurting as they step on the earth. And I saw Jesus' sandals as he was walking. I felt like a blistery, like there was like rubbing of the sandals on his feet, his human feet, that was creating some energy of discomfort. And that was the one thing that stood out, was like it's hot, it's sweaty, and just so uncomfortable to move. But he didn't focus on that. It's like, feel that pain, but move anyway, do it anyway, because there's a greater mission. And like you were saying with the monks, it's what you focus on. It's that mindset of, okay, I'm doing this no matter what. And I know in my own life, there's been challenges and struggles that will knock you to the side or try to knock you down, but you get back up and you do it anyway, because you know that if you stay down, you're not going to do what you're here to do on this earth. And I got that message really clearly, that whatever was trying to dissuade him or be a challenge was, like Ruth said, it wasn't an issue. It wasn't even a thing. It's like, keep going, keep doing. Wherever he was supposed to be, that's where he incarnated into, and was able to get his message through, despite the elements, despite it being miserably hot or miserably cold or whatever the climate was. That wasn't an issue. It was the main thing to focus on. What am I doing? What am I doing here? And I think that's such a huge message for all of us. We complain about things all the time. We complain about weather. We complain about the condition of the world, and politics and things that are happening, instead of, what am I doing here? And what can I do while I'm here? So that's what I got. I'd like to just open it and see what the two of you, if there's any thoughts, anything that's coming to you.
Well, when you were talking about mission, I don't think I said that word earlier, but it also came to me as they were walking. I am talking about the monks, as they were talking step by step, and their focus was on the mission that they have in this lifetime. And even the monks have said, imagine Aloka. He doesn't have 2 feet. Like he has 4. And he keeps going, and he wants to keep going. I mean, we people are the ones who recognize that he may be suffering, and he was, taken care, and he even had a procedure, a loca, but he was going to keep going, and that's his mission. He had a mission. He has a mission too, as we do, as the monks do, and as we all do. So that's what came to my mind too, Teri, about our mission here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna just translate that part. So estamos hablando de que Jesús usaba sandalias cuando caminaba, pero Teri, ella dice que ella percibe que sí tenía como callos, como lastimaduras, como se le llaman blisters, que se abre la piel de llagas, lo que sea, por el frote que tenía en sus pies con sus sandalias. Entonces, lo que Teri recibe ahorita es de que, pues Jesús aquí vino con una misión, así como los monjes budistas y así como nosotros, tenemos una misión en este tiempo en la tierra. Entonces es como una manera de pensar, es como preparar la mente. ¿Cuántas veces no nos hemos caído? Dice Teri, yo me he caído y me vuelvo a levantar y me enfoco en lo que sigue para no quedarme tirada. Entonces, eso es lo que estamos comentando. Yo le dije que sí, que a mí también se me viene a la mente la palabra la misión de vida. And you know, Terry, as I am translating, I said we have a mission and a purpose in this lifetime. Now, just imagine the purpose that we have at this time that we are, as we call, ascending, and the earth is ascending as well. I mean, we are having a huge transformation. So imagine our mission at this time. And I feel it is even more important than, I mean, it's not about relevance or importance, but it feels more important than 10 years ago. What my mission was, I had no idea. And now, these times, our mission is really important to help Mother Earth as well, as individuals, each one of us.
That's so true. We can do something. And I think we all came here to do something. And that mission, if you want to call it that purpose, is huge at this time. And we see that. We're aware of that. And I think that's the beginning of turning things around and making a difference, is that awareness. Thank you for that insight, Lily.
You're welcome.
And Ruth, any thoughts?
Well, I was thinking, we've got all those years we don't know anything about. We don't know if his family stayed put. We don't know if his family moved around a lot. And what I was wondering was, I think we tend to do what's been demonstrated for us as we're growing up. If your family travels, if your family just hunkers in and stays put. And I was thinking, I don't know if it was different that he then traveled around, or was that just what he saw? Was it odd that he was a traveling man or not? You know, I mean, we don't know what he experienced.
That's a very good point. And we really don't know anything about Mary and Joseph until they appeared, when they were told that was something that was going to take place in their life. But we do know that early on, as Jesus was a baby, they traveled with him out of necessity, to protect him. So was that, like you were saying, was that, oh, this is what you do? You move from place to place. But I know in my own family, we didn't. We stayed put. Occasionally, we would go on a family vacation out of the area that we were living in. But, yeah, there wasn't a lot of travel for us. So that wasn't my norm. But now look at, this is my mission, is travel and movement and going about. So just tuning in and saying, okay, was that something that was a familiarity for Jesus to just go from place to place? And I've many times asked what was taking place during those years that we don't know about, those times between knowing what he was doing as a baby, as a child, until he really started his mission of helping us to understand what life is all about and what God is all about. I feel like he was moving different places. So I'm going to stop talking and let Lily talk and see if I can tune in more to that time and the movement aspect of, was he on the go, or was he in one place in that time that we don't know about?
Bueno, estamos ahorita diciendo, Ruth está diciendo que ella se pregunta si Jesús en su tiempo, junto con José y María, tenían esa familiaridad de ir de un lugar a otro. constantemente. Entonces, como que la mudanza a lo mejor era algo común en sus tiempos para ellos, y por eso es que a lo mejor se adaptaban más fácilmente a los cambios, ya sea cambios climáticos o cualquier otro tipo de cambio. So, Terry, as we are talking about moving, what comes to me is our ancestors, actually. And for example, even my grandparents, I hear stories of them having to move from one place to another for survival. Either they didn't have any kind of resources. It could be financial resources, or it could be, that they didn't have the food resources. If they were planting something for some reason, they didn't have the food to eat, or who knows. But I do know that it happened with my grandparents, so I can imagine it happened with ancestors as well, that they have to move because they need to, in their case, they needed to look for a better living. So I am not sure in Jesus' lifetime, maybe they move a lot, and that helped them to adjust to so many different things. But I don't know more about that.
I agree, Lily. My mother's family was living in Germany. They got exiled out of Germany and had to move to Russia. And they didn't want to be in Russia, but they had to move to
Right.
Russia. And then her family came over through Ellis Island. So yeah, there was actually more movement than there was staying put.
Yeah, my grandparents also came through Ellis Island. My grandfather came from Spain to Ellis Island. So that was, I can imagine all the movement at that time with that migration.
Right. Yeah, and I'm seeing a lot of movement. I'm just getting this insight that he wasn't in, how do I even put this? He had the family, okay? He had Mary, Joseph, and siblings. I've gotten that many times. There were siblings. But he was going out, even as a young child, not young, but let's say teenage years. He was exploring. He was going beyond where they were because they were more stable. They were more settled with. It's hard to move an entire family all the time if you don't have, like Ruth was saying, if you don't have the resources, you don't have the means to do so. But I'm seeing him venturing out. That's what the word I was hearing, venturing out. I've heard stories of him in different countries. So I don't think he stayed put. That's what I'm getting. I'm just not feeling that he was one that was going to just stay in one spot because he understood that his mission was huge and that it was beyond just a community. Yeah, that's the scene that I'm seeing when I tune into that time. Is he already knew that he had to go to these different places. I feel like some of the places he went were for his own, his growth and his understanding. And a lot of the concepts that he taught were things that we learned from, like the gurus, the yogis, the monks. Some of the things that he was teaching in his lifetime here on earth were those concepts: meditation, prayer, stillness, being still. And so I don't see him just being in one spot. That's what I got anyway when I tuned in.
Hmm. Yes, as you are talking, I am questioning the difference of them in moving to different places, how much it was because of lack of resources and how much it was because of his mission. And I also feel that it was a lot regarding his mission, that they probably traveled because of he wanted to spread his word. And and I don't remember one of the podcasts that we did, prior podcast, I remember something about growth when you were talking about growth. um yeah, I can recall what we were talking about, but there was an emphasis that came to me, that there were certain places that he was in where he got a lot of growth, and that connection with God. Oh yeah, we were talking about fathers and talking about Father's Day, and then we were talking about um, Joseph, and then we were talking about his connection with God. And I remember, I don't know if I read it or it came in the conversation, that he got a lot of growth through that connection that he had with God. And for example, mm, I miss I miss the name, but talking about Buddhist monks, they I mean, what's the name of the monk, of the Buddhist monk that got enlightenment in the Bodhi tree?
Oh, yeah. Um,
So the name,
yeah, it's
well,
escaped me as well. Another Buddha that you're talking about, though.
so he grew up in a family with a lot of resources and money, right? I think kings or something like that, royal royalty. And he wanted to explore the world. He got the call to explore the world. He just felt his mission was not to live in that castle or whatever, wherever he lived.
Mhm.
And he had the call to go to the world and see the homeless and see the suffering and see death. And then again, how much growth he got when he was in the tree, going through almost like a vision quest, where you are starving, you don't have food, you don't have shelter, probably not even blankets, and in that way they get more connection to source, because I guess you get in certain kind of state of mind where you kind of accelerate your process of growth. So probably Jesus also, a lot of his travels were focusing his mission, and maybe he got a lot in all those travels, in connection with nature and connection with people as well, I would think.
Yeah, I totally agree. And yeah, even as you were sharing that, there's so many stories that are similar. Kuan Yin is one that comes to mind. She came from a very affluent family, and her dad had high aspirations for her to marry and, you know, be this person that was just a wife and staying at home. And she felt her bigger mission was with the people. So she defied her dad's wishes and she went out to minister with, like you were saying, to people who she knew needed to hear love, needed to hear compassion. She's known as the goddess of compassion because that's what she did. She went to the people. And that's what Jesus did. That's exactly what he did. He went to the people. He had that heart that knew that we needed that light. We needed that hope that he brought to us in the world. So I love this. I'm feeling so much that he really explored different countries, not just even different areas of the nation that he went into, but different adjoining countries. And he went where he was learning, and like you said, where he had the growth. And whether that was sitting with yogis, with monks, with Buddhas, whatever it was, that was then what he brought when he did those powerful 3 years of ministry that we do know about. So I think those years that were the quote unknown years were times when he needed that space. He needed the experience that he was going to have to bring that message then forward to us.
So what just came to me was which angels were closest to Jesus? Like who was always there with him?
Well, I'm definitely getting Michael.
I'm totally getting Michael.
I know you're in the same wavelength.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Gabriel probably, Teri. Gabriel, I feel Gabriel, Michael, I don't know who else.
Yeah, Gabriel, we know, came to Mary. That's documented that Gabriel was the one that shared with her that she was going to give birth to Jesus. So I'm positive that Gabriel and Michael both were right by his side at all times. An interesting thought, Ruth. Thank you for bringing that forward.
It just came in.
Yeah, I know there was one story that was told of him going to the garden and he was talking with an angel in the garden. And I'm just wondering if that was Michael that he was having a powwow with there in the garden alone. There's a song, there's a hymn, I come to the garden alone. And I see him doing that. I see him just sitting there.
They should have rephrased that. I come to the garden almost alone.
Right.
Not really alone.
Yeah.
I'm going to translate
What we're talking about.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Estamos hablando de cómo es que Jesús pudo haber vivido su etapa de exploración. Dice Teri que ella percibe que Jesús, sobre todo en su adolescencia, estuvo explorando mucho los lugares, como que le daba curiosidad explorar, pero que también viajó a muchos lugares y que todo posiblemente era relacionado con su misión y es donde tuvo mucho mayor crecimiento espiritual. Entonces yo le estaba diciendo a Teri que sí, que yo también percibo que a lo mejor más que viajar por sobrevivencia, a lo mejor era relacionado con su misión de vida y que por eso viajaban mucho. Entonces empezamos a hablar de los monjes budistas o de Kuan Yin, que son personas que ellos, hubo un monje budista que tenía mucho dinero, así como Kuan Yin, y ellos quisieron salirse de ese ambiente de mucho dinero para explorar el mundo y para estar cerca de la gente. Entonces nos dice Teri que probablemente esos años donde no sabemos mucho de Jesús, donde se desapareció, por decirlo así, porque no sabemos mucho de él, es porque probablemente son los años donde tuvo mucho más crecimiento. Y Ruth pregunta que cuáles serían los ángeles que estarían más cerca de Jesús. Y estamos pensando que, bueno, definitivamente Arcángel Miguel y probablemente Arcángel Gabriel, que estaban cercanos a Jesús.
Can you imagine what that would be like to have God ask you to walk beside his son on earth? What an honor
Yeah.
for those angels. Holy cow.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, knowing who he was and the being that he was. I was just thinking, you know, we hold certain people in high regard, certain influencers, thinking of some of the names like Dr. Wayne Dyer and people who have brought such spiritual messages forward to us. Can you imagine having Jesus right there in front of you, physically in front of you? And what would you ask him? What would you even say to him if you knew who he was?
Right. Most people didn't know who he was.
Yeah. While they were having those interactions with him, he was just a teacher, right? He was just another philosopher or teacher that showed up. But I could just see sitting, and I know I've been there. Ruth and I have many times gone into meditation together and seen us walking with Jesus physically on the planet. But what would you say? What would you ask him? What would you want to know from him if you had that opportunity, knowing who he was, instead of, oh, he's just another teacher? I think that would be a very different conversation to bring forward.
But we can do that any time in meditation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I would ask about love. And we have heard so many things about love, and Jesus in essence was love. So it was not so much what he would tell you is who he was, what you felt from him. But I think for me it would be more to explore love. And maybe things that I don't know, that I would like to know more about love. And I have no idea what that is. But love is so expansive, and there are so many branches, if you will call them.
Mm-hmm.
So explore more the essence of love.
Yeah, I know in prior shows we've talked about Jesus and romantic love, but yeah, exploring that unconditional, what's called agape love. I think that's what you're talking about, Lily, is to have him really explain that to where we understand it more fully. Because it's a hard concept to wrap our brain around, that, this person may be doing horrible things in the world, but we're told love them anyway. In that type of agape love, not that we have to like what they do or, how they're showing up, but that total acceptance and honoring them as a being that was created just as we were by the Creator. We're all created equal. And how do we do that? How did Jesus do that? Right? Because we know that he expressed emotions, he expressed anger at injustices. And so how do we, as humans, as mere mortals, how do we show up with agape love in our lives? What would he say to us? What is he saying to us? As Ruth said, we can ask at any given moment. We can ask for insight.
And when you think about that, we are born in that pure essence of love. It's just feeling or thinking about it. It feels so beautiful. I mean, and when you get to see a baby, and young children, So yeah, I mean, how unfortunately we get deviated from that essence. Like if we were able to keep that essence that we had when we were born, when we were little, but we are exposed to so many things that deviated our attention to who we truly are. Mhm. I wonder if he kept that essence. Like, yeah, like if it was deviated throughout his lifetime at some points, and when it was deviated, he just went back to, you know, to his focus, or if he never lost it. Huh, I wonder.
That's a good question. Do you want to share what we're talking about? And then let's tune into that.
Ujú. Voy a traducir lo que estamos hablando. Bueno, Terry está diciendo y Ruth está diciendo que qué honor sería para los ángeles caminar al lado de Jesús. Qué gran honor. Y también estábamos pensando dice Terry, ¿qué pregunta le harías a Jesús si lo tuvieras enfrente? Porque en sus tiempos las personas que estaban cerca de él no sabían, o sea, era un maestro. Entonces, a lo mejor las preguntas eran diferentes a las preguntas que tenemos nosotros ahora, ya sabiendo un poco más de Jesús y de cómo fue su vida y de quién era él. Entonces, yo le dije a Terry que lo que a mí se me viene a la mente es preguntarle a Jesús acerca de amor. Si pensamos en que, por ejemplo, nosotros nacemos en esa esencia pura de amor y nos desviamos en nuestro camino. Y yo me pregunto si Jesús conservó esa esencia de amor desde que nació, o si fue desviada de alguna manera y él se enfocaba en regresar a esa esencia del amor, o si nunca la perdió.
Yes, I was just exploring that, Lily. That was such an interesting thought that you brought up because we've heard that Jesus' experience was a fully human experience. So, given that we come in with that unconditional love that we know from spirit, and then things happen, life happens, experiences take place that shape us and mold us into who we are. I'm getting that he was fully aware of his spirit being at all times. And although he did, as we know, he got upset with certain things that took place, he didn't let that change him. You know, some of us are hardened by some of life's experiences, but he kept his focus, as we've said several times already in this show. He kept that focus on what was priority, why he was there, what his mission was. So, yeah, there were incidences where he was fully human and felt all those emotions, those human emotions, but he kept the main focus of, I have to spread this love. I have to get this message out here while I'm here, knowing that he had that limited amount of time to do what it was he came to earth to do. So I feel like he was exceptional in that way. You know, as humans, we don't have something always telling us, don't do that, you know, don't don't get jealous, don't get angry, don't be a bully. But I feel like he always had, whether it was the angels that were right there guiding him, or he just knew how to handle being in the human body more so than we do. So that was what I was feeling. That, yeah, there were moments when he had to speak up, he had to express, but for the most part, he was that total agape love being that is God, and that we all have inside of us. We all have that spark that knows agape love, that knows what it's like to not be judgmental or be filled with anything other than love.
Yes, and as you were talking, I was thinking, so how, I wonder how much time throughout the hours of the day that he was, awake and doing his teachings, how much time did he spend being within? Because that's where you get that growth too, right? Like somehow you have to come in silence and within to kind of reconnect to your source. So I am thinking that it's almost like that was like it was like food. That was his food, like his that fed him, if you will say it, that to fed him to be able to continue his mission, and then go out traveling in busy with maybe chaos in many ways, being around a lot of people. So it's like the opposite of being within. It's like going to the world, going to movement, going to traveling and weather and all the different things, So yeah, I guess the way that you can come back to center is spending a lot of time connected to God and nature, which is the same thing.
Lily, in my thinking, I think it was just a constant flow. I don't think there was now I'm going to go sit and pray. And I think he probably did that. But I think so much of his essence was being open to spirit all the time. And that's what we're asked to do, is to just pray constantly, because it's just open communication, I think.
Yeah.
Right.
Isn't there a Bible verse that says pray without ceasing?
Yeah.
So being in that constant mode of anything that comes up for me, I pray about it. I put it to God. How do I do this? How do I handle this? So I can see Jesus that way.
Yeah, just always being open.
Yeah, this has come up. God, how do I deal with this now?
Yeah.
What do I do in this situation?
So yeah, it seems that then he had that channel open all day, and no matter what he was doing, he was constantly connected. So yeah, I guess that's the answer. And having all the guidance from the angels and all of that, that he was constantly protected, guided, and connected to source. Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
and I feel also that Mary was very spiritual.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's one of the reasons she was chosen, is because of her dedication to God and living a godly life. So he had that as well. He had the angels, he had the inner knowledge, but he also had that motherly connection that said, do good, be good, helping him to understand love like you were saying, this pure love like she had for him.
Mm-hmm. And talking about that, Teri, last week we mentioned this book of the
Yeah.
Visitation,
Mm-hmm.
and this one is talks about Mary and Archangel Gabriel. So
Right.
yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, I'm growing up in the presence of Mary and Joseph. You know, it must have been, for example, a different childhood that I had. So
Yeah.
then you grow up in a different way.
Right. Well, if you'd like to share that, we will then wrap up our session for today. These always go so fast. It feels like we just start talking and all of a sudden we've talked for an hour. But Lily, if you will just share with everyone and let everybody know that we will be wrapping this one up for this week. And if there's anything that people would like to discuss, if they would like to ask questions, we're very open to hearing what you all want to know. And, we're all curious about this. So bring your curiosity.
And I would invite the audience to really take the opportunity to ask, because we don't know for how many sessions we are going to do this podcast. It might have an expiration time, who knows, a month, two, I don't know. And this is the opportunity. So if you are not live, sending your writing your questions, then you can make a comment or ask a question in the replay. Feel free to do it, because Teri will be, and I can also do it. We can be looking at the chat and see. That's what we were doing at the beginning of the program. We were looking at the questions, and then we will bring them for the next podcast if we were not able to do it in the present podcast. So I encourage you to do your questions, because we don't know for how long we are gonna be doing this. So take the opportunity. I am going to translate.
Okay.
Estamos hablando dice Teri, que bueno, sabemos que Jesús vino aquí a la tierra para vivir una experiencia completa como humano, y que él siempre estuvo consciente de su espíritu, por decirlo así, y que él no permitía que las cosas que le sucedieran, lo cambiaran. Como hemos hablado en este podcast anteriormente, él estaba muy enfocado en su misión. Sí vivió emociones como enojo, como tristeza, sí las vivió, pero al mismo tiempo, como él sabía que él venía aquí a la tierra por un tiempo limitado, entonces él estaba muy enfocado en su misión. Entonces él no permitía que todas esas cosas que a nosotros nos desvían de nuestra misión o de nuestro enfoque, a él no lo desviaban de su enfoque y de su misión. En esa manera Jesús fue una persona excepcional. Estaba muy guiado por sus ángeles, pero también nos dice Teri y Ruth que él estaba también muy guiado por su madre María, por el ejemplo de su madre, de la Virgen María. Y todo esto lo guió a él a saber cómo poder manejar cosas como un ser humano en este cuerpo. Porque como sabemos, María vivió una, como se dice, godly life, una vida enfocada en Dios. Y también hablamos de Jesús. Tuvo un ambiente en su casa con padres que estaban también muy conectados con Dios.
Thank you, Lily.
I forgot to invite the audience in Spanish. Let me just invite them to ask questions. Les invitamos a hacer sus preguntas, ya sea si las hacen en vivo, si no, cuando vean el replay, cuando vean la grabación, pueden escribir sus preguntas en el chat. Cualquier pregunta que tengan, y los invito a que hagan sus preguntas porque no sabemos por cuánto tiempo vamos a estar haciendo este podcast. Puede durar un mes o dos o más, no sabemos. Entonces, esta es la oportunidad de hacer preguntas. So yesterday, as I said, I was translating that Jesus was here for limited time. Then I thought that we also might have this podcast for limited time. So please ask. And just feel it as a conversation. As we are, Teri, Ruth, and I, we are having a conversation. We are just exploring, we don't, as Teri said, sometimes we come with questions that are asked ahead of time from the audience or questions that we might have, but very often it's questions that we have in the moment. And it's just a conversation. It's just, okay, let's explore this. And that's how we go. So just like that. That's simple.
Yeah, that's how conversations happen. You don't just stick to one thought; it leads to other thoughts, and that's I think the beauty of exploring and excavating what we could possibly find out from our conversations together about the life of Jesus. Well, I certainly appreciate you, Lily, and it's just so beautiful and wonderful to have you translating this so that people that might not understand what we're saying can have that understanding and can participate by joining into the conversation and asking questions. So thank you again for what you do. And thank you to Ruth who joined in with us today. I really appreciate you and all the time that we spend together in meditation and conversation and thinking about how we can put more love out there into the world through going inside in doing meditation. It is so important. I feel like Jesus did a lot of meditation while he was here, that he spent that time going in and getting refueled by that communion with God. So for now, we will continue. We don't know how long, that's Lily said. This was just a mission that was given and said, do this. And I said, yeah, let's do this. And so whatever length of time it happens, that's the time it's supposed to happen. But thank you to everyone who's tuned in, and please let others know if you think there's someone that might enjoy this type of conversation and discussion. Just share with them to show up on Saturday mornings. So I'm just going to open and see if Ruth, Lily, if you have any closing words that you would like to give. And then we'll meet again next week.
I think for me, the overarching answer in all of this is to just spend time with Jesus in prayer and meditation. And don't think you need someone that can be your go-between. You can sit right there with him.
Yeah, I think that's what he showed us when he came here to earth.
And as Ruth was talking, I just remember I read something about Mary Magdalene. And it's something related to not let other things come in your way. Let me see if I can find that phrase. Well, this is about Mary Magdalene. It says, like let's spend time or moments with Mary Magdalene. And in this case, it could be Jesus, Joseph, or it could be, anybody. But in this case, I'm talking about Mary Magdalene. not as the woman history that was misunderstood, but as the woman Jesus trusted. She reminds us that our past does not define our future. She reminds us that healing can become purpose, that grief can become wisdom, and that love can become courage. Mary Magdalene did not have all the answers. She simply stayed close to Jesus. She remained at the cross when others left. I just got chills from that. She
Mhm.
went to the tomb while it was still dark, and when Jesus called her by name, she recognized his voice. Then she went and shared the good news. Perhaps that is her invitation to every woman today or every man. Stay close to the divine even when life feels uncertain. Do not allow fear, rejection, or the opinions of others to silence your voice. Trust the gifts God has placed within you and lead with compassion instead of control. So, yeah, this is from anybody, like I said, Mary Magdalene, Jesus, Mary, or Joseph, or the angels, or anybody else. It's an invitation.
Mhm.
Hmm.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that, Lily. Yeah, I'm reminded that we did say we were going to talk about Mary Magdalene on this podcast, and so we'll keep that in mind for future discussions. I know we have brought her up many times, but I think she has a lot to offer as far as some insight into Jesus's life and um, what it was like to be there, right there in his presence.
And you know who also, besides Mary Magdalene, Terry, Mary in Mexico, Mary is a big, like who do you say, like a big figure that people follow. And
Mhm.
there is a basilica, and I don't know the name in English, but it's some kind of church. It's not the cathedral; it's a basilica that was built for her.
Right.
And there is one day, December 12th, that is her birthday, as we call it. And then thousands of people go there. It's like you can, I mean, the basilica is full, and people out of the basilica go there to honor her and to pray. And so Mary is really important in the Mexican culture. Hmm.
Yeah, very true. And I've been to a basilica in New Mexico. I was trying to think of where that's located. Anyway, yeah, that is something we can discuss for sure. Is the influence that Mary and Mary Magdalene had also on Jesus, and what we can learn from them by tuning into their energy. So,
And Mary Magdalene, the influence in the apostles,
mhm,
disciples, apostles, I say apostoles, discípulos, the influence that she had on them after the resurrection of Jesus.
mhm,
That it was a different. I read that it was a difference in her. It was almost like a before and after,
mhm,
like when Jesus was not there. But instead of probably being something that would make her weaker because Jesus was not there, it might have become stronger because she still listened to Jesus
mhm.
anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, thank you. And thank you to everyone who tuned in today. And hopefully you'll return next week and we'll have another discussion about walking with Jesus. Take care, everyone. Thank you for being here today. Lily and Ruth, thank you so much.
You're
So much
welcome.
love to you. And we'll say bye for now, everyone.
Bye bye.
Hi, Lily.
Bye.